When I look back at my own journey, one thing that has always stood out for me is this: your desires may ignite the fire within you, but it is your discipline that keeps that fire alive when everything around you is trying to blow it out. You see, desire is exciting, it's thrilling, it's what makes us dream of the impossible. But the truth is, desire alone doesn't take you anywhere. If you want to create something meaningful, if you want to build a life of substance, then you need discipline. Because discipline is not just about saying no to distractions, it's about saying yes to your bigger vision every single day. Discipline over desire means choosing the hard road when the easy one looks tempting. It means waking up before the sun when your bed is calling you to stay. It means practicing your craft when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one is even believing in you. And I say this from my own experience, the times when I felt exhausted, when I wanted to give up, when my desires whispered, "Take a break, nobody will know." It was discipline that pulled me back and said, "You will know, and that matters the most." So remember this: desires fade, they shift, they change with seasons, but discipline stays. It becomes a part of your DNA, it shapes your identity, it makes you stronger, sharper, unstoppable. When you choose discipline over desire, you are not just building success, you are building yourself, and that, my friends, is the ultimate victory. Desire is the spark that sets our hearts on fire. It is that beautiful dream that keeps us awake at night, the thought of achieving something bigger than ourselves, the vision of becoming someone extraordinary, the image of holding success in our hands. It's intoxicating, it's powerful. It makes us believe that maybe, just maybe, the impossible is possible. But here is the truth that nobody tells us: desire is fleeting. It is like a flame that can rise high when the winds are favorable, but the moment a storm comes in, the flame trembles, it flickers, it dies out, and if we are not careful, it disappears altogether. That is why desire alone can never take us to greatness, because greatness is not built on fleeting emotions, it is built on relentless action, and that relentless action has only one name: discipline. Discipline is the bridge that carries your desire from being just a fantasy to becoming a living, breathing reality. It is what pushes you forward when your mind whispers to quit. It is what keeps you awake when the world is asleep. It is what makes sure that your dream doesn't fade away like a wish in the dark. Now think about this: every time you have dreamed of something magical, there has always been that first rush of energy, that initial adrenaline that makes you say, "I can do this, I will do this," and then life shows up, life with its struggles, its routines, its distractions, and suddenly the fire of desire that once felt unshakable starts to dim. You begin to wonder if it was even worth it, and that is the precise moment where discipline comes in like a silent warrior. Discipline does not need applause, it does not need motivation, it does not even need excitement. It just needs commitment. It needs you to honor your dream when nobody else does. It needs you to take that one more step when your body is screaming for rest. It needs you to believe in your vision when your own doubts are louder than your faith, because discipline is not glamorous, it is not dramatic, it is not a show for the world, it is private, it is lonely, it is powerful, and that power is what sustains you long after desire has burned out. And let me tell you, when you learn to choose discipline over desire, that is the moment your life begins to transform, because you no longer rely on emotions to carry you forward. You build systems, you build habits, you build a foundation that cannot be shaken by mood swings or temporary failures. You stop waiting for motivation to knock on your door, because you already know motivation may or may not show up, but discipline will always be there waiting for you. It is like a loyal companion that never abandons you in the storm. It is like the roots of a tree that hold it steady even when the winds are fierce and unkind. It is like the invisible armor that keeps you strong when life tries to break you. So, when your desire fades, when the initial fire cools down, and the journey feels heavy, remember that your discipline is the engine that will keep driving you forward, because desire may start your story, but only discipline has the strength to make sure it gets finished. Discipline is not just about controlling your actions. It is not just about saying no to distractions or following a rigid schedule. It is so much deeper than that. Discipline is the mirror that reflects how much you truly respect yourself, because every choice you make, every time you decide between what feels easy now and what builds your future, you are telling yourself how much you value your own dreams, your own worth, your own life. When you choose discipline, you are declaring that you deserve the success you are working for. You are declaring that you are worthy of the respect you want from the world, and it begins with you, always with you, because if you do not respect your own word, if you cannot trust yourself to follow through on your commitments, how can you expect anyone else to trust you? How can you expect the world to believe in you when you are not willing to honor yourself? Discipline becomes a language of self-love. It becomes a daily act of saying, I matter, my goals matter, my future matters. There will always be moments when you are tempted to betray yourself, moments when you feel like skipping the workout, moments when you want to delay the project, moments when you tell yourself just one day off won't hurt, and yet deep down you know that every time you give in you are chipping away at the trust you have in yourself, and that trust is sacred. Discipline is the act of protecting that trust. It is the armor that keeps yourself worth intact. It is not about punishment. It is not about forcing yourself into pain. It is about choosing alignment between who you say you are and what you actually do. When you say you are committed, your actions must show it. When you say you want to win, your choices must reflect it. And that is how discipline becomes self-respect. It is proof that you are not just making promises, you are living them, you are embodying them, you are honoring the life you claim you want. And the truth is, once you embrace discipline as self-respect, everything begins to shift. Your confidence grows because you no longer depend on others to validate you. You create your own validation by showing up for yourself every single day yourself. Belief expands because you can finally trust yourself to follow through. Your relationships transform because when you respect yourself, you naturally attract respect from others. Your opportunities multiply because the world notices when someone is rooted in discipline. It notices when someone has the power to say no to distractions and yes to growth. It notices when someone walks their talk and lives their truth. Discipline gives you dignity, it gives you clarity, it gives you authority over your own life, and the most beautiful part is it cannot be taken away from you because it is not given by the world, it is built by you. So every act of discipline is a declaration: I respect myself too much to settle for less than what I deserve. Motivation is beautiful. It feels like lightning striking your soul, filling you with energy and belief that you can conquer the world. It is that rush you get when you watch a powerful story or listen to a song that makes your heart beat louder than usual. But the truth about motivation is that it is temporary. It is like a wave. It rises high and crashes down just as quickly. And if you depend only on motivation to move forward, then your journey will stop every time that wave retreats. That is why consistency is far more powerful than motivation, because consistency does not rely on feeling. Consistency does not ask whether you are inspired. It does not wait for the perfect moment or the perfect mood. Consistency shows up even when motivation has gone silent, even when your heart does not feel like fighting. Consistency becomes the quiet force that keeps you moving step by step, brick by brick, until one day you look back and realize how far you have come, not because you were always motivated, but because you were consistent. Think about how habits are formed, not in a single burst of energy, not in one spectacular effort, but in the small, repeated actions done over and over again until they become second nature. This is the secret of consistency. It transforms effort into identity. It turns action into instinct. And suddenly, what once felt hard becomes automatic. What once required so much push becomes natural. The gym session, the extra study hour, the daily practice, all of it adds up. Like drops of water carving through stone, the power is not in the drop itself, but in the persistence of its fall. And this is why consistency beats motivation every time, because motivation is an emotion, while consistency is a discipline. Motivation gives you a spark, while consistency builds the fire that never burns out. Motivation might get you started, but consistency will make sure you finish. And when you look at the people who have truly created extraordinary lives, whether it is in art, in sports, in business, in service, one thing they all have in common is not that they were motivated all the time, but that they were consistent. They worked when nobody was watching. They showed up when no one was clapping. They kept going when the world had already counted them out, because they knew that real progress is invisible for a long time. It is built in silence. It is built in the repetitions. It is built in the hours of unseen dedication. Consistency is not glamorous, it is not dramatic, but it is unstoppable. And when you choose consistency over motivation, you no longer need to chase inspiration. You create it within yourself. You no longer wait for the right moment. You make every moment right. No longer worry about being ready, because consistency itself makes you ready. And that is why consistency will always beat motivation, because motivation may light the match, but only consistency will keep the flame alive. Most people think discipline is about restrictions. They think it is about limiting your life, about saying no to everything that is fun, about living in some rigid cage of rules and sacrifices. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline is not a prison. Discipline is the key to freedom, because when you are disciplined, you are not at the mercy of your impulses or your moods. You are not trapped by procrastination or laziness. You are not enslaved by bad habits that keep you from reaching your potential. Discipline gives you the freedom to rise above all of that, because it gives you control and real. Freedom is not about doing whatever you feel like. Real freedom is about being in charge of your own life, being able to create the future you want instead of being dragged by circumstances. When you have discipline, you can trust yourself to do the right thing at the right time, and that trust is liberating. That trust is freedom. Imagine living a life where you do not have to constantly battle guilt because you skipped the work you promised yourself. You would do. Imagine not carrying the weight of regret because you gave in to a short-term distraction that stole your long-term dream. Imagine having the clarity that comes from knowing you are aligned with your purpose. This is what discipline gives you. It removes the chaos, it removes the clutter, it removes the endless cycle of start and stop, try and fail, because discipline simplifies your life. It gives you structure, it gives you focus, it creates space for creativity to bloom because your foundation is solid. It creates space for peace because your choices are consistent. It creates space for joy because you are not weighed down by the frustration of wasted time. This is why discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the mother of freedom. And once you understand this, you will see how discipline opens doors that desire alone could never unlock. Discipline allows you to say yes to opportunities because you have prepared for them. It allows you to say no to temptations without feeling like you are missing out because you know your future is worth more. It allows you to live with balance instead of being pulled in 1,000 directions. It allows you to build financial freedom because you manage your habits. It allows you to build emotional freedom because you are not a slave to your moods. It allows you to build spiritual freedom because you live with integrity. Every choice rooted in discipline is a step towards a freer life, a life where you are not bound by fear, by regret, by inconsistency, but instead are guided by clarity, by courage, by self-mastery. And that kind of freedom is priceless because it is not given by anyone else. It is earned by you through your discipline. Legacy is not built in a single moment of success. It is not built in one big achievement or one dramatic victory. Legacy is built in the choices you make every single day. It is built in the discipline you practice when no one is watching, because those small choices, those repeated habits, those invisible sacrifices, they accumulate, they shape who you become, and they shape what you leave behind. People may remember your achievements for a while, but what truly lives on is the discipline that created those achievements, the values you lived by, the standards you set for yourself, the example you created for others to follow. Because discipline is not just about you, it is about the ripple effect it creates. Discipline becomes your silent message to the world, saying, "This is who I was, this is what I stood for, this is the kind of life I believed in," and that message continues to live long after you are gone. When you look around at the greatest figures in history, the ones who left behind a mark that could not be erased, you realize it was not just their talent that created their legacy. It was their discipline, their relentless dedication, their refusal to stop, even when the world doubted them. Talent is a gift, but discipline is a choice, and it is that choice repeated again and again that carves your name into the hearts of people for generations to come. Because talent might inspire someone for a moment, but discipline inspires them for a lifetime. It teaches them what is possible when you refuse to give up, when you refuse to compromise, when you honor your word, not once, not sometimes, but always. And that is why discipline becomes bigger than the individual. It becomes a lesson, it becomes a torch, it becomes a path for others to walk on. And when you think about your own life and the legacy you want to create, understand this: the trophies, the awards, the recognition, those things will fade, the applause will fade, the spotlight will shift. But what will never fade is the story of how you carried yourself, the discipline you practiced, the consistency you lived with. That is what will inspire your children, your family, your community. That is what will remind people not just of what you achieved, but of how you achieved it. Because discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is not about being flawless. It is about being faithful to your purpose. It is not about shining once, it is about shining again and again, even in the dark, even in the silence. And that is the kind of legacy that cannot be taken away. A legacy built on discipline is a legacy that endures, it is a legacy that transforms, and it is a legacy that becomes eternal.